Alrighty, hello everybody. Today's video is going to be talking about the top 5 supports right now to climb ranked and what to build on them. You know, I see a lot of newer players or even intermediate players and some advanced players struggling to just know who's good right now and also just what to build on them, because Smite's in a weird spot right now where tanks are good, but also then people are saying they're not good, and people are saying that mages are really good, and then people say mages suck. So a lot of people are really confused right now. So hopefully this helps to shed some light onto what has been really working for me and what has been working for a lot of people as well. So starting off, we're going to be talking about Maui. I think I will be increasing Maui on my tier list for the next one very soon, because I've been having a lot of really good games as Maui lately, and he should definitely not be overlooked right now. He is very powerful, offers so much utility and control for the team. The buff on his 2 is super strong. He has so much CC, and he plays so well with any team in any comp, and he has really good peel too. So I really like Maui right now. For your starter items on Maui, you're going to be pretty much looking at a Sentinel's Gift or a War Flag. I don't like Benevolence on him too much. You can get it if you want. However, the upgrades just don't really synergize with how he plays super well. Maui is a guardian that really likes to dive in a little bit and be in your face, and Benevolence is a lot more suited for your backline peel heavy support. So obviously Maui is peeling, it's just he doesn't use Benevolence as well as he does like War Flag or Sentinels. Now, no matter what you go, War Flag or Sentinels, the build is going to be the same, but I will talk about the differences of Sentinels and War Flag and why you'd want to go either or. So for Sentinels, you'd want to go this if you just want to be a little bit more tanky. That's what you want to go. Sentinels gives you so much protections on either upgrade, so much health, and it just offers a lot of utility. So the Sentinel's Embrace gives you aura protections versus Sentinel's Boon that gives you an insane heal and mana regen if you're fighting in a lot of waves. So if you think you want to be a little bit more tankier, go Sentinels. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, more in your face, get War Flag, as the extra attack speed and movement speed, and the late game heal to your teammates from War Flag is going to be really good for that too. So those are your options. I tend to prefer War Flag just for the early game snowball potential, but both are very good. And you know, if you go Sentinels, you get 50 extra rolls, so you can buy an extra potion. So there you go. First item, you're on Maui, you're pretty much going to be looking at one of 3 choices. Gauntlet of Thebes, actually 4 choices, my bad. Gauntlet of Thebes, Manticore Spikes, Sovereignty, or a Stone of Binding. For kind of obvious reasons, Stone of Binding allows you to be really tanky later on once you get the stacks. In previous videos and just in general, I said I don't really like Stone of Binding because it forces you to rely on your team to get the farm for you, which is true. However, Maui does play with his team a lot, so I feel like he stacks this really easily. And just the aura procs are going to be always strong for your teammates. So that's why you want to go Thebes. Manticore Spikes is if you want to snowball really early. You're still really tanky with Manticore Spikes. It gives you 30 of each protection, 250 health, and an insane amount of MP5, allowing you to spam your abilities a little bit more and be a little bit less careful with saving your abilities. But also the passive is so good on Manticore Spikes. And it works really well on Maui since he has multiple ways to proc it. On his 3, his ultimate, and then on his passive, he can proc Manticore Spikes, which is really nice. Stone of Binding is kind of like Manticore Spikes, but a little bit different. Makes you really tanky, 35 of each protection, 200 health. And then anytime you hit an enemy god with any crowd control ability, that includes all crowd control. So slows, fears, all that stuff. So Maui can proc this on his 1, his 3, and his ult, and I think his passive too, because it works on the Manticore Spikes. So he has lots of ways to proc this. Both of those are very good if you just want to get some early game Prot Shred, since Prot Shred is the name of the game right now. Pen is very good since tank builds are so good. And then Sovereignty is always going to be a good option for first pick items, as if they have 4 physical gods, this is going to be an insanely good stat to give. It gives your team a really high amount of aura, physical prots, and a really nice amount of HP 5. So these are your starter items. More often than not, though, you will likely go the Gauntlet of Thebes. If you go Manticore Spikes or Stone of Binding, you're going to go the other one that you didn't get, and you're going to full commit into that more damage-focused build. So if you go Stone of Binding, you're going to go Manticore Spikes. Go Manticore Spikes, you're going to go Stone of Binding. Versus if you go Thebes, you're going to go either of those two items, or you can go Sovereignty. If you want to be a little bit less damage focused, but want to be a little bit more tanky. However, I do recommend going one of these two, Manticore Spikes or Stone of Binding, though, over the Sov here. So let's say we go Manticore Spikes. No matter what you got in those first 3 slots, however, your 4th slot will always be Prydwen. Prydwen is so strong right now. I think almost every build I'm talking about today has Prydwen in it, simply because of how powerful it is. Both glyphs work really well on Maui. I actually prefer the blue one on him over the orange one, just because the orange one, I don't think you really get the first explosion off too many times because you're in the air. However, the blue Prydwen is really nice. You get such a nice health shield. And even if you went that Stone of Binding instead of the Thebes here, there we go. You can see you still have an insane amount of protections. You're almost at 200 of each. And you're going to get more protections later on, so you have nothing to worry about. If you do go this double Prot Shred build here, I recommend getting a Spirit Robe here in this next slot, no matter kind of what their team comp is, just to make you a little bit tankier. And then you can use just last item slot as your counter build item or damage item. So for damage, you're going to look at Spirit Desolation, Spear of the Magus, Divine Ruin, or Soul Reaver. Typically, all of these are very good damage items. You can go on support that are very good. Each do different things. You know, this is pen and cooldown. This is pen for you and your team. This is anti-heal, and then this is just raw damage for tanks. So all these are very good. If you want a counter build item, you can look at stuff like Heartward Amulet, Magi's Cloak if they have a lot of hard CC and you're constantly getting stunned out of position. You could look at a Shogun's if you want more attack speed for your team. Archdruid's Fury is really good. Gives you both prots, health, MP5, and it gives you a lot of extra damage on that auto attack. You can look at Pestilence or Contagion if you need more anti-heal. Erosion's very good if they have any shields. Abyssal Stone is very good if they have heavy cooldown required gods like Hell or something like that. You have lots of options here if you want to go this build route. However, if you go the other build route that I mentioned, bear with me, the Thebes into the Manticore Spikes to the Stone of Binding, and then into the Prydwen. This next slot, I'm pretty much almost always going the other item that I did not go. So if I went Manticore Spikes here, I will get Stone of Binding. If I went Stone of Binding here, I will get Manticore Spikes. And then you're going the same thing in this last item slot, you're counter building. You could replace the Stone of Binding for another defensive item, like some items I didn't talk about are Emperor's Armor, or maybe a Spectral Armor, or even a Glad Shield. Glad Shield's very good on him. Allows you to play even extra, more aggressive, and it gives you cooldown, especially if they have a more physical focused team comp. So you do definitely have lots of options here. Another really fun build you could go is Stone of Binding into a last item Archdruids. This is a more tank focused, what is it that I'm looking for? Tank focused hybrid build where you're still doing lots of damage because of all the raw prot shred you have in your kit. And you're still really tanky. Keep in mind, this is without the Warflag upgrade to these numbers here, and also without the Thebe stacks. With Thebe stacks, you'll be looking at about 270 physical, 140 magical. And then with the Warflag upgrade, you'd be looking at about, was it 30 plus 20? Almost 300 physical, and then like 150 magical. So you definitely have lots of tankiness with this build. I, however, tend to prefer going something more like this, though, where I go Warflag, Thebes, Manticore Spikes, Prydwen, Stone of Binding, and then like just a pen item here. This lets you really fight any carries one-on-one. However, when you're playing with the team, it allows your team to just carry you while you're carrying them, because the prot shred applies on everybody. You're reducing everyone's protections. Your team's picking up those Manticore Spikes, and everyone's just doing so much damage, especially when you hit that ult, pull 5 people in. They're all hit with that Stone of Binding. They're all hit with the Manticore Spikes. You just completely kill that team right then and there. Relics on Maui. Blink is always okay on those aggressive supports. I'm not a huge fan of it on Maui. Shell's pretty good. Sunder is, I think, I go Sunder like every game right now because of how powerful Sunder is. It's like a free 350 damage to everybody on the enemy team. So just keep that in mind. On Maui, I'm usually starting with Horrific and then Sundering Spear is my second. And then as for your shard, you're always going to get Wing Shard in Maui. When you pop a Wing Shard, you insta clear green buff and the chest buff, whatever you call that thing. It just clears so fast, it's insane. Especially if you have War Flag, you clear so fast, and then it gives you some really nice early invade potential too. Yeah, so that's Maui and what you would build on him right now to help you give yourself a ranked advantage. Alrighty, so next up we have my favorite character, Kuzenbo. Obviously, I talked about builds on my Kuzenbo guide. If you haven't seen that already, go watch that, but I will briefly talk about them again. So, for starter items, Kuzenbo, I don't think he uses War Flag good at all. I think he really likes Benevolence or Sentinels. However, between the two, he definitely prefers Sentinels as it just fits in his kit better and synergizes with them better. Starting item, you're almost always going Prophetic Cloak. He uses this item so well. It is like bread on butter how well this item goes on Kuzenbo. The cooldown, the mitigations late game, the defense, he loves every bit of it. Yes, it does suck to stack. Yes, the requirements for getting the extra mitigations kind of suck. However, even with the first half of mitigations, he still uses this item so goddamn well. It fits so well on him. It's absolutely best in slot. Go this first. After that, it's going to be pretty similar to what we saw on Maui. A lot of Guardians are kind of the same right now. You're going to be going to either Stone of Binding or a Manticore Spikes. I tend to prefer going Manticore Spikes right now just because of the MP5, but both are very good. After that, you're always going to get Pridwin, as Pridwin is best in slot on almost every Guardian in this 4th slot right here. And like I said, almost every build today is going to have Pridwin in it, except for, spoiler alert, Horus, that I'm going to talk about later, because he can't use Pridwin. So, after the Pridwin, you have some big brain counter build options going on. You can get Sovereignty if they have a heavy physical team focus. If you can get an Emperor's Armor, you can get a Glad Shield if you want extra cooldown and damage. Glad Shield's very good on Kuzenbo. Let me just show you that real quickly. Does lots and lots of damage. You can get an Archdruid's Fury. I don't love Archdruids on Kuzenbo, but it's still very good. Lots of power. If they have heavy CC, you can go Magi's Cloak. However, you don't need Magi's Cloak because your ult has CC immunity, and it's very easy for you to get away already. Spectral is okay on Kuzenbo, however, it's kind of a non-bow on him because you kind of want the enemies to crit you, so that way you reflect more since his reflect is so strong right now. Never go Berserker Shield on him, it's really bad. Erosion's okay if they have lots of shield. Abyssal Stone's very fun, very annoying. He has lots of easy ways to proc it. Like I said, he has lots of options. He's a very fun dude. I tend to prefer going Stone of Binding here if I'm noticing that I don't really need anything to counter just yet. Or you could also go Relic Dagger, because on Kuzenbo, you're almost every game going to go Blink Thorns as your relics, and just having those up on cooldown is very important. You're gonna get so much value out of stacking that Thorns with your 2. You're gonna be able to one-shot squishies, so it's very important that they're up as much as possible. So Relic Dagger is never a bad option. However, you could also go like the Stone of Binding or a defense item here, like I said. And then your last item is almost always going to be a power item, like a Divine Ruin, Spear of the Magus, Spear of Desolation. I have Pythags on here because I think it's kind of slept on. However, Soul Reaver's another good option. Or again, if you need a defense item, you have items like Emperor's Armor, Contagion only enters. A last item, Sav, is not great, but it's not bad. So a final build on him could look something like this. And with a Spirit Robe. There we go. Wait, where did that just go? Oh, I lost Prophetic Cloak. That's what happened. Sorry, I'm currently recording this at like 1 a.m. So my mind is completely blown right now. I've been playing a lot of Smite. I've been playing the new god Karen, and I will be making some videos on Karen soon. So just be ready for that. There we go. So with a build like this, where's Spirit Robe? I gotta rebuy it again. I'm such a troll. There we go. With a build like this, you're so unkillable with this build. It's so nasty. You definitely don't need it. I will be honest with you. You don't need a build like this. You can definitely go a last item damage item here just because you don't need this. The Spirit Robe. However, his passive mitigations do let you overcap the mitigation cap. So do with that information what you will. I personally really like to go a last item Divine Ruin on him, just because his only real struggle is playing against healers. So this is ideally what I'm building on him most games. With this, again, your 5th slot and your 6th slot being your counter build slots, because your first 3 are pretty much always going to be these 3. Now, again, just to clarify, I'm not saying you have to go these 3 items in the exact same slot every game. You could definitely throw in a Sov in those first 3 if you have to, or a Heart Word if you have to. If they have 5 magicals on their team, please just rush a Heart Word. Like, it's going to do so much better for you than any of these will. So, yeah. Kuzenbo is very easy. Please go watch the guide if you haven't already. I talk a lot more in depth on these items and a lot more, and I give you a lot more build paths. So go watch the guide, but we will go ahead and move on. Alrighty, next up we have Horus, since I've already mentioned that he's going to be in this video. Horus is a very good warrior, especially if you're new to ranked, simply because it really lets you carry as support. He is so powerful. He has so much CC and so much early game damage that he can honestly solo mages and solo carries very early on. And with these builds and with these items, you'll see exactly why. So starting off on Horus, very similar to what I said on Maui, only ever going to really go Sentinels or Warflag. He doesn't really use Benevolence too well. It just doesn't synergize with him like these two do. So those are your starter items. First item, I only really ever recommend going Prophetic on him right now, just because you can't go Prydwen on Horus, because Prydwen doesn't work, as his ult already gives him a shield. It overrides the Prydwen passive, so effectively you're spending 2,400 gold on a 20% CDR item with no passive, so it's not very good. And because of that, you need to get cooldown in other areas, so I think Prophetic is a great answer to that. You don't have to get Prophetic, however. You could very easily get a Gauntlet of Thebes in this first item slot. You could get a Sovereignty, or similar to Kuzenbo and Maui, you could get a Manticore Spikes or Stone of Binding in this first slot. You have lots of options in this first slot. I just tend to prefer the Prophetic because of the cooldown. In your third slot, I really like to get either Manticore Spikes or Stone of Binding. He uses both really well, especially since both of his abilities, his 1 and his 2 proc Manticore Spikes, he uses both really well. And like I mentioned, he is a very early game heavy aggressor. So being able to just confirm kills a little bit easier with that extra prot shred or the extra damage from Manticore Spikes really helps him excel in that area, and really lets you just carry a little bit more. So if you want Manticore Spikes, especially because the MP5 is so nice, or if you want Stone of Binding, get Stone of Binding. Both are very good. It's really up to you on what you want in that scenario. If you want more prot shred, get prot shred. If you want more damage, get Manticore Spikes. Now, after that, you have some options. You could absolutely look at a Dawnbringer here. This is a very good power item. I like to get it last item, to be honest with y'all. But you can get it right here if you want it to. If you have a lead, this could be very powerful. I just tend to prefer other items in this slot, like another cooldown item, for instance. So if we come down to the cooldown tree, what items are good on Horus? Glad Shield, very strong on Horus. Very, very, very strong on Horus. Glad Shield is very good. Breastplate of Regrowth is okay. Tends to do better in solo, as it just doesn't really have any utility for the team. Spirit Robe does very good on him in the third slot. Caduceus Club does very good if you want some healing. You have some options. Granted, there's not a lot of cooldown options. Lotus Sickle, he uses okay. He's not the best Lotus Sickle holder. I don't really recommend it on him. I personally just tend to go either Glad Shield or Spirit Robe here. Magic's Cloak is another option, but those are my two generally speaking, my two go-tos. Another option you could use, instead of the Stone of Binding, you could go into the Sov and then go into the Spirit Robe here, or go into the Magi's Cloak, allowing you to be super tanky early on. Once you start getting cloak stacks, you'll be well over 200 physical. You do need some magical protections here, so in that case, what I will say is to go like a Genji's or a Shogun's for the 10%. Oni Hunters is very good if you want more mitigations, or a Heartward Amulet's very good. You do have some options, but this is another build option. However, what I do tend to build a lot here is just the Prophetic Cloak into a Manticore Spikes, into like a Spirit Robe, into a Stone of Binding, and then to like a last item, Magi's Cloak. He really likes the cloaks since he he can't go Prydwen. You got to get your cooldown somehow. Now, obviously, you don't have to be at the 30%, 40% cooldown. However, you'll notice that the higher cooldown you have as support, the better you'll do, just because a lot of these support gods are heavy cooldown intensive because their cooldowns are so long because they have so much CC. So a build like this is generally speaking what you'll see on him. Or instead of this Magi's Cloak, I would get like a Dawnbringer. Doubling the protections once he ults in is very good. And obviously, I'm not saying you can only go those items. You can obviously always go counter pick items. Generally speaking, in this last slot or this fourth slot, a lot of these builds, you'll notice that the 5th and 6th slots are your counter build slots. So, but those include, but are not limited to, Archdruid's Fury. He procs this really well with his one. Emperor's Armor if you need help sieging, Contagion, Pestilence, the things I've mentioned before, basically all those counter build items. But yeah, that's Horus. He's relatively simple. Horus is one of those gods where you're kind of stuck building a lot of the same items every game right now, just because you kind of have to. All right, but that's Horus. Let's go ahead and move on. Terra is a god that I personally don't like to play very much. I find her weird to play. However, she is very clearly a top 5 support. She is so strong. She does so much damage. She offers so much utility for her team, and she's one of the best ultimates in the game. She's just so powerful. So I have to include her in this just because I know a lot of you are going to want to play her. So as for starter items, you're pretty much going to be looking between Sentinel's Gift and Benevolence. She doesn't use War Flag very well. She's not a big War Flag fan. However, Benevolence works very, very well with her kit. That heals very nice, and Sentinels is very good if you want to be extra tanky. So those are your options. By this point, we've talked a lot about these items, so you should be able to figure out which one you want to go depending on the situation and depending on what the enemy team is. After that, for your first item, let's say we want Benevolence here. Oh, actually, one thing I want to talk about, if you go Benevolence, keep in mind you will need to build a lot more protections just because it doesn't have any protections on the upgrades other than the 50 magicals on Compassion, which is a lot. Keep in mind, that's a lot. However, Sentinels and War Flags both give you a crap ton of protections on both upgrades. Sentinels gives you 25 base plus the aura. Sentinels gives you 40 of each. So keep that in mind. If you go Benevolence, you will need to build a little bit more protections later on. Anywho, starting off. First item, Terra really likes to go Thebes, in my opinion. It works very well with her, synergizes very well. Prophetic Cloak is another very good option. She just doesn't proc it as easily as she has no ranged abilities. But she does really like the Thebes. After Thebes, it's very similar to the other builds we've talked about. I actually don't like Manticore Spikes on her. I really dig Stone of Binding, though. I think she uses Stone of Binding better than Manticore Spikes. So, second item, I really like Stone of Binding on her. I guess that would be third item if you can count the starter. Fourth slot, we're again getting Prydwen, Guardians and Prydwen. Very common theme. Right now, builds are very very similar right now. It's okay. Prydwen, you know, she uses this item very well, especially the orange Prydwen. She uses that so fucking well. She loves orange Prydwen. Terra can really do some damahe with this Prydwen, let me tell you. But you obviously don't have to go in this order. Again, you can go the Sav in the second slot, or you can go Sav in the first slot if you have to. This is fine. Just make sure you get Prydwen by this slot if you can. And both upgrades of Prydwen are good, both glyphs. She does use the orange one a little bit better, though. Next up, you have actually a lot of options. I know I've said that a lot now, but you really do have a lot of options on her. A little bit more than everybody else. Because she's a healer, you have a few ways you can take her. She doesn't have the best heal. However, she can use Lotus Sickle really well. Lotus Sickle is definitely a good option, especially if they have a physical focus team comp for the raw physical stats it'll give you. Then the shield is very nice. If you want a damage item, you could look at the Manticore Spikes here. I wouldn't really recommend it, but you absolutely could. Or if you want more healing, you could go a Rod of Asclepius, giving you more healing dealt and an aura of cooldown reduction, putting you at 30% CDR. This is a very good item here. You have lots of different choices here. I actually particularly really like to go Archdruids on her right here. I think Archdruids was made with Terra in mind. It synergizes very well with her kit, lets her do a lot of extra damage, and it just really provides so much utility for the team. Makes her extra tanky, gives her lots of health, and lets her just play around the team a little bit more because she's able to do her own stuff. A last item on Terra, you really have some options. Keep in mind all of the other counter build items I said before, and then we can actually add on some more. If you went the Archdruids here, you're going to be really tanky once you have this Thebes and this Sentinels upgraded. So you could consider going a sort of, not sort of binding, a Chronos Pendant here, sorry. Chronos Pendant she uses very well in this last slot if you don't have any other cooldown items. So 20 and 20, she actually uses this insanely well. You could be looking at a pen item. You could be looking at like a Spear of Deso, a Divine Ruin, a Spear of the Magus. You have lots of options. I'm not going to be talking about the other items I've mentioned before, but you know, it's where is the freaking, oh, I'm looking at defense, that's why. There we go. If you need some more tankiness, you have the Magis Cloak for the beads. You have Mail Renewal is mad, don't get it. Emperor's Armor. Glad Shield, she uses that pretty well. You have Spirit Robe, she uses that really well. Erosion uses really well. Abyssal Stone. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about these items, but here I am talking about these items. Lots of options. It's just make sure you get these general items. I'd say this is her core build right here. Just Thebes, Stone of Binding, Perduen, Archdruids. Doesn't have to be in this order, but she really likes those items. Then you have some room to experiment in the last item and some room to experiment with the starter. All right. Now we will move on to an assassin. All right. So moving on, we have Fenrir. I actually grossly miscalculated how strong that buff was for support. It is a very good, nerf. It is a very good nerf. He is like, it definitely hurt him a lot. However, he is still a very good assassin support, especially if you're trying to climb ranked. I really like Fenrir support right now. It might be a little clickbaity to call him a top 5, but I really think he is definitely up there. Especially for me in the way I play him. He does so much that it's really good right now. I have some items already set here. On accident, I forgot this is here. But this is the build you're gonna go. I never recommend this. Straight up, never recommend this, but go this every single game. This is just so crazy strong on him. I'll break it down. You're gonna go first item Manticore Spikes into an immediate Dawnbringer, into a Perduen, into a Stone of Binding, Archdruids. Realistically, you only have 20% cooldown, which kind of sucks. However, look at these passives and how well they synergize with Fenrir. War Flag, you could interchange that with Sentinels if you want more protections. That's totally fine. But the early game aggression you're getting from the War Flag is super strong. Your team's going to be very happy. Late game when they have the attack speed, movement speed. But honestly, let's be really getting it for yourself. Into the immediate Manticore Spikes. He uses that so well with his one and his ult. He gets so much value out of it, plus the MP5. And then the Dawnbringer. Dawnbringer is such a good Fenrir item because when you're ulted, you're already doubling your protections because you're going over cap. What happened here? Oh my goodness, that broke. You're already doubling your protections with your ultimate. Getting that Dawnbringer passive plus that early game extra power is so strong. And then into the immediate Perduen, getting the orange Perduen, so when you pick them up with your ult, they immediately take the explosion damage, and then they get exploded again. When you throw them down, you jump on them, stunning them. Very strong. Into the Stone of Binding, even more prot shred, and then to the Archdruid Sphere to give you even more power later on. This is such a good build right now. Please try it out and trust me. I know I said I don't recommend this, but go this every game. Don't do that. That was a joke. There's obviously some stuff you can mix and match here. You don't have to go the Dawnbringer. I think it's very good. You actually don't have to go the Manticore Spikes. You could go a first item like Thebes or a first item Sovereignty here. Let me just do this real quickly, just to show you. Boop, 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 boop. First item Sov. That's very good. It's never going to be bad. You could go a first item Dawnbringer if you want to be really spicy, or a first item Stone of Binding into the Dawnbringer, into the Perduen, and then you could get a Spirit's Robe here. First the mitigations, extra tankiness, and then into the Archdruids. This puts you at 30% CDR, which is very nice. You're missing out on the Manticore Spikes. However, you're still going to be very impactful. You're going to be super hard to kill, and you're going to be really enjoying yourself. If you haven't played Fenrir support and you're looking at me thinking I'm crazy, go play it. It's so much fun. You jump in, you sunder them, you ult them and you kill them, or your teammates kill them while they're in your mouth, and you're so tanky they can't kill you. When you're in your ult with this build late game, you're gonna have over 500 protections of each. It's crazy, dude. Fenrir is so strong right now. Even with that nerf, he is just such a menace. And if you're a good player, or you're on your way to being a good player, he is such a useful character. Now, don't play him every game. Don't do that. You will get hard countered. You know, people, you don't first pick him either. If you can avoid that, do not first pick the Fenrir if you're in ranked. Pick him like third, not third, but pick him like towards the middle, towards the end. As a little surprise pick, and you'll be so powerful. And so you'll find ways to be impactful that you never thought were possible. I am a big advocate of assassin supports, as I think they can do so much more than a lot of the standard support players that just sit back and peel could ever do. Because you're not just there to play the game, you're there to win the game. You're making plays happen. You're not just waiting for opportunities to arise, you are making the opportunities arise. And that's why I love assassin supports. So much fun. Especially when they're good right now, which they absolutely are, because tanks are super strong right now. And characters like Fenrir are so good as an assassin support because they have such high base damage. You can build them tanky and they'll still do damage. So try it out. Try this build. Try the other build I showed you with the Manticore spikes. You'll be a happy camper. Obviously, don't go every game. You can mix and match some items. Throw on some anti-heal if you need it. Throw on a spectral if you need it over like the Spirit Robe or the Arch Druids. But yeah, if you guys like this video or have any questions, comments, and concerns, please let me know in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as soon as possible because I love reading comments. Thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a great night. Peace out.